Hi everyone, it's True here and welcome to another African Violet video. Today I wanted to talk about light and how do you know if your African Violet is getting too much sunlight or not enough sunlight. So your African Violet needs the correct amount of light in order for them to grow and flower well. So if they're not getting enough light, you won't get blooms, and that's one of the main reasons why people don't get African violet flowers. Their plant just isn't getting enough light for long enough periods of time. So I wanted to show you some examples here of where your plant's not getting enough light, where it's getting too much light, and one of the things that can happen if it's not getting an even amount of light the whole way around. So the plant that I've got here in front of me is an African violet that's not getting enough light. So your indicators for not getting enough light are you'll get thin, deep blue colored leaves and these really, really long petioles. So these stalks that come out, they're going to be really, really long because what's happening is your plant is reaching to try and get more light. So it's trying to make more room, reach out to try and get more light. And the other problem you'll have is you'll have no blooms at all. So this one doesn't have a really good indicator of the blue-green coloured leaves, but it does show you really well the long petioles and what happens when it's the way that it tries to reach up to get more light. So that's one example. The next example here does show you a little bit better the blue-green sort of coloured leaves. You get these really, really sort of dark blue-green coloured leaves. And that's not always a great indicator because different varieties do have that different shade of leaf. But you can see here that you have these long petioles. Sort of this plant, if you can see from up above, it is reaching out, trying to get more light. So you've got these long petioles. And it's sort of kind of blue-green colour leaf to the plant. So that's two examples of African violets that are not getting enough light. They can also get too much light. You wouldn't think so, but plants can actually get too much light. And I have two examples here of African violets that have gotten too much light. And what happens when they get too much light is you get plants that are stunted in growth and they have these small sort of crinkly leaves. You get like a yellowing color to the leaves and these sort of short stunted petioles. So instead of having those sort of long petioles that are reaching up, you'll get these short stunted petioles. And you'll get that sort of curling in the leaf, the crinkling, and if you can hear it, it's crunchy. The leaves are quite crunchy. Sometimes you can also see brown scorch marks as well. So you don't want your plant to get direct sunlight. If they get direct sunlight, they will burn and you'll get sort of brown scorch marks. But you can see that sort of yellowy color tinge to the leaves. And these leaves, if you can hear it, they're really, really crunchy. They're really crunchy. So I'll be removing the outer leaves and I'll be moving these plants. I just wanted to make a couple so I could show you what to look out for if your plants are getting too much light, because they do need a lot of light. You know, to get them to bloom, they need at least 10 to 14 hours of indirect light per day. And typically, if your African violet isn't getting enough light, you're not going to get those blooms. But in saying that, they need 10 to 14 hours of indirect light. They also need the rest of the time to be in darkness. And that just helps them grow really, really well. So lots of indirect light, but not too much, not too bright. So you want them to be in a location where they're not getting too much light. So ideally a north or east facing window are best. In the winter months when there'll be less light, you can make sure, your windows are clean, because that can sometimes affect how much light they're getting in winter time. If you're not getting enough light into their location, you can try and move them to different locations to try and get them a little bit more light in winter. But you can see those very short petioles, and it's just not a very happy, healthy looking plant at all. So something else that can happen as well, and something you need to make sure to do with your African violets, is every few days you need to rotate your pot. And the reason why you do this is if you don't rotate your pot 90 degrees every few days, is you'll get a plant that doesn't grow evenly. They'll be reaching for the light. So if you can sort of see on this plant here how it's leaning to one side, it's leaning so that it's reaching for where the light is. You can see. And you don't want that. You want your plant to sort of grow evenly. It means that all the leaves then get an even amount of light, and it'll be a healthier, happier plant. So every few days, rotate at 90 degrees. And also what you can see developing here as well is it's getting this sort of longer leaf stalk, which will happen as well when it's reaching. See the longer leaf stalk? When it's reaching for the light, you'll get this unsightly long neck. Sorry, I said leaf stalk, I meant long neck. And that long neck is what you want to try and prevent, because it can actually get so long that you'll then need to cut it and shorten it for mainly the health of the plant. So you want to try and avoid that sort of long neck leaning habit that's happening when they're trying to reach the light. So always rotate your plants at 90 degrees, and then you'll have much healthier, happier plants. So just quickly going back over it again, if you've got these yellowy, crinkly, curled leaves, your plant's getting too much light and you'll need to reduce it. And you can do that with like a little shade curtain or something that can just sort of take the edge off that light. That they work really, really well. And if your plant's not getting enough light, you'll get these long petioles, that sort of blue-green colored leaves, and your plant, you'll be reaching up to try and get to the light. So you'll get these really, really long petioles. So they're just a couple of examples of what to look out for when your plant's either getting too much light, not getting enough light, remembering to rotate your plant to make sure it gets an even amount of light. And if you follow all those things, then when things aren't going right and you do end up with sort of yellowy green leaves, there's one of the things to look out for, and that could be one of the reasons why. I mean, there can be other reasons why that you can have those yellowy green leaves, or short stunted growth. There can be other reasons for that, but that's typically, if you're a beginner, that's one of the things that is a common problem. And I hope this video has helped, and I hope it helps you to grow amazing, wonderful African violets. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon in another video. Bye bye.